John Lusk here of Lusk Archery Adventures. Serious testing, successful hunting. Okay, just a few weeks ago, I was able to test the Cobra Barbarian MXT. It's a mechanical two-blade broadhead designed for crossbows, but can be used with vertical bows as well. And its claim to fame is it's said to be the toughest mechanical broadhead ever forged. So I tested the 100 grain model, and it was really tough. But it wasn't the toughest mechanical that I've ever tested, but it did fairly well. And you can check out that video. But right after I did that one, I heard that they'd made a new and improved model for 2022 that's even more durable. And so I was able to get some of those, though they're just being released right around the time of this video. I was able to get some early, and I'm eager to put those heads to the test and see how they perform. And this time I'm testing the 125 grain model, which they say is twice as durable as the 100 grain model, okay? So I'm eager to see if it's true this time with this new model for 2022 and this 125 grain head. So in just a minute, we're gonna zoom on in here and go through some of the design features and specifications, and then I'm gonna put it to the test using all of my regimen for 2022. And for that, I'm using my Bowtech CP28, and sometimes I use my SR6 for some of the shots. I'm using a Bishop FOC King arrows for most of the testing, but then the really hard impact shots, I'm using the Bishop FAD eliminators. So let's zoom on in here and check out this new improved 2022 model of the Cobra Barbarian MXT. Here's a good look at the 125 grain 2022 Barbarian MXT. And some of the improvements they've made from 2021 to 2022 is they've replaced this shear pin and made it much more durable, and they've put a set screw in there so you can take it out and you can replace the blades as well. You couldn't do that on the previous model. And now in this 125 grain model, they say it's double the strength of the 100 grain model. The ferrule is much thicker than it was in the 100 grain model. The 100 grain model at the pin, the diameter here of the ferrule was 0.28 inches thick. This one is 0.32 inches thick. So that's a considerable difference. And I'll show a picture here side by side of the two heads, the 100 grain, now that's 100 grain from 2021 and the 125 grain from 2022. And you can see the size difference in the ferrule. And it also has a bit different chisel tip. It looks like a more stout chisel tip there, really pointy. And then the blades in this 125 grain model are 0.070 inches thick. Man, that's a beast of a blade. The 100 grain model that I tested previously was 0.055 inches thick. So this is 0.070. That's considerably thicker. Now, the way it works is upon impact, and again, this is designed for high-speed crossbows, but you can use it with a compound bow as well. But with a high-speed crossbow, it impacts really hard, and that forces these blades back. It's a front deploying broadhead. It is pretty hard to pull the blades back, okay? Like, it takes a bit of strength. However, they do open. I'm eager to test this one to see how it opens. They do open on a hard impact. And again, they're designed for high-speed compound bows. The blades pull back, and they're in their full open position. They have a cut of 1.5 inches. Plus, you have this ferrule that's 0.32 inches. So you get the 1.5 inch cut here, the 0.32 inch cut here, and so that makes a decent overall cut. It's fairly vented there, as you can see, and yet there's also a lot of thickness and a lot of material here in this titanium to make that ferrule really strong, and it's relatively short overall. So this is a cool looking broadhead. I'm really hoping the improvements that made from 2021 to 2022 and the extra durability of this 125 grain model really make it, like they say, the most durable mechanical broadhead on the market. Oh, and I will note the way the blades are retained there, it's a super tight tension, all right? There's a friction. They wrap around this pin at the base, and then they kind of snap locked, and so they are snug. I mean, they are not coming out, okay? That's why they're really good for high-speed crossbows. But again, upon impact, they peel back and open from the front like that. So super eager to put this head to the test and see how it performs. $425. It penetrated 7¼ inches. Again, I say every time, it doesn't look like that the way it's lined up, but that was the measurement, 7¼ inches. $550. It penetrated through 45 layers. The entrance hole is the diameter of the broadhead in the closed position, 3/4 inch. But then by the back of the box, it had reached its full opening potential of 1½ inches. The head held up really well through the MDF. However, the cut size did decrease. So on the right is the head I shot, and on the left is a new model. And so you can see the difference in the cutting diameter. By the third shot of the MDF, the cutting diameter had reduced to 1.3 inches, whereas it started at 1.5 inches. So the blade's bent back just a bit. So here it is after going through the MDF 3 times and then the steel plate 2 times, and you can see it held up very well. The blades, wow, they're in really good shape in terms of their edge. I just really am impressed with the thickness and that edge integrity of those blades. They did shrink back just a little bit. They lost about 1/10 inch in their cutting diameter. You can see they're much smaller cut than they were, and the tip got a little bit blunted, a little bit bent, but overall really good through the steel plate. Here's a good look at the holes that it made in the steel plate. And I'm really impressed with the thickness of these blades, because look how thick those cuts are in the steel plate. That's going to really help with a wound channel, making such a thick cut like that. It's going to be difficult to close up. So here's the head after going through all the durability tests. It's gone through the MDF 3 times, the steel plate 2 times, and into the concrete. And as you can see, there's a bit of a bend to the ferrule. The tip got a bit bent like that, and then the ferrule got a bit bent downward. And you can see it in a wobble like that. But it's not a terrible bend. It didn't bend in half, and it certainly didn't break. It just has a curve to it now. On the MDF, the blades held up really well, but they did shrink back a bit in their cutting diameter. They went from 1.5 to, by the third shot, they cut down to 1.3. They just compressed downward, and they did begin to eat into the base of the ferrule there, but that didn't really affect the functioning of the blades. They held up really well through the steel plate, and they still feel pretty sharp, okay, after going through the steel plate. I mean, that's really impressive. I like these blades. So overall, the durability is really good for a mechanical, more durable than a number of fixed blades. It's more durable than the vast majority of mechanical heads on the market today. So what do you think of this new improved 125 grain Barbarian MXT? Man, there's a lot to really like about this broadhead. Love the overall short profile, the low profile in flight, flies extremely well. Love that super beefy ferrule, and then the super thick blades, 0.070 inches thick. Really impressive. Really great blade retention system. It's going to hold those blades secure in flight, even out of the most high-speed crossbows. And man, durability-wise, it did really well. I wouldn't go so far as to say that it's the most most durable mechanical ever forged. Okay, there's others that have held up better. Not that many, okay, but it did better than the vast majority, and I don't want to knock its durability at all. It's just not the most durable mechanical, but it's certainly one of them. And, you know, it didn't have very many weaknesses, except like the penetration was a bit lacking in the cardboard for some reason. And then it being front deploying, it, you know, you're only getting a pretty small entrance cut. So those are just some things to consider. Oh, and the sharpness was actually really lacking. I was surprised with the sharpness because it felt sharp. And I tested it like 5 times, but the sharpness and the edge retention were really lacking. But if you use a really good sharpener, like a Stay Sharp guide for replaceable blades, okay, I would recommend that. I bet you can hone it down to get it really sharp. But overall, it's definitely worth a look, especially for crossbow shooters. But again, even can be used for vertical bows as well. So check out the score sheet and see how it performed in the areas that matter to you the most, and see if it might be a good fit for you.